As of recording, it's January, and things have been pretty quiet for us Nintendo fans. It's the start of the new year, and we're all getting excited for the usual beginning of the year Nintendo Direct, whenever that may be. And so with not much news for us to talk about, people have been making their predictions about what they think this year will bring. As a Nintendo fan, I love these kind of videos, and I've been watching some in my spare time. One thing I'm personally really excited for this year is the new Tomodachi Life game, Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. It was announced last year, and so far it's one of the few new games that we actually know anything about. So as I was watching some of these videos, I was wondering what people would have to say about the game. And to my surprise and slight disappointment, not much. Aside from a few, most of the videos I've seen just briefly mention the game and maybe give it a release date. After its announcement, the game just hasn't been talked about much, and it seems like most people are treating it as one of Nintendo's smaller titles that are filling up the first half of the year as we wait for more. And to be fair, that does make sense. Nintendo puts their bigger games later in the year, and gives fans some smaller titles earlier on to keep them satisfied. At first I thought I was being blinded by my own personal hype, and not really looking at things realistically. That I shouldn't be surprised that people aren't talking about it as much as I hoped, because despite me being excited, it still is a smaller title. But that's the thing though, it isn't. When it was announced, people were freaking out over this game. If you look at the live chat of any of their previous Nintendo Directs, you can see people constantly begging for Tomodachi Life. So why aren't many people online talking about it now? Well, there could be multiple different factors as to why people don't see the game as a big release, despite all the hype it got. The first thing is, we really haven't seen that much of the game. Despite having 2 trailers to look at, they've really only shown us some short snippets of gameplay, and not much else. However, this isn't the biggest deal, as we know we'll see more soon. But it could come off to some people that there just isn't that much to show. The biggest and most likely reason, though, is that it's a cozy game. For some reason, unless we're talking about Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, people never see cozy games as big releases. I think that might be because they're just so different from what people would expect from your typical gaming experience, that people unconsciously put them below things that have more action or difficulty, like your Marios or your Zeldas, or even things like Fire Emblem. Even if someone's never played a Fire Emblem game, most people will still consider that a big release, even though it's arguably more niche than Tomodachi Life. The fact that Tomodachi Life Living the Dream is a cozy game, plus the fact that it's starting the year off, seems to have been enough to put it off of people's radar. Regardless of why, people are still severely underestimating Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, and by a lot more than you'd think. However, that doesn't mean the game's gonna flop. A game that doesn't have as much hype can still quietly do really well, even though it's not as heavily anticipated in the eyes of the internet. A game that can sell really well without much hype before, or even after release, is called a sleeper hit. And believe it or not, Tomodachi Life Living the Dream is actually a great example of one. We can learn a lot about how Tomodachi Life Living the Dream could potentially perform by looking at the 3DS game's performance. Tomodachi Life for the 3DS sold a whopping just under 7 million copies. That in itself is nothing to sneeze at. It's more than both the best-selling Pikmin and Fire Emblem games. But that isn't even taking into account the circumstances surrounding the game and the platform it was released on. We have to remember that the 3DS era was also the Wii U era, and the Wii U was not working out well for Nintendo. Hardware sales were not doing too well for them, and their player base was nowhere near what they have today. So the fact that a new series, for North America, was able to beat the best performing games in some very well respected series, while on a console with a much smaller number of players, says a lot about how many people loved that game. The fact that it was able to come anywhere close to the console system sellers is genuinely amazing. Now that Tomodachi Life has found a home here on the Nintendo Switch, the game has a ton of things it can now take advantage of, the biggest of which being its large install base. We've seen time and time again games selling a whole lot more than their installments on 3DS, and I don't see why it wouldn't be the same for Tomodachi Life. Now I will admit, sometimes a fanbase just doesn't transfer over from one game to the next, especially if that next game came out over 10 years later. Fortunately, I don't see this being an issue for Tomodachi Life, as in addition to the hyped reactions, the announcement tweet is the most liked tweet ever on Nintendo's Japanese account. That's another thing that Tomodachi Life Living the Dream has over the original. The fanbase has grown so much since the 3DS game. Although they're not the most vocal about the game itself, they've been asking for a sequel for years, and with that initial hype from fans, it'll definitely draw in new players who want to understand what all the hype's about. Another thing Tomodachi Life Living the Dream has going for it is that word about this is so much easier now, thanks to social media platforms like YouTube and TikTok. The thing about Tomodachi Life is that there are so many clippable funny moments that can help even more people discover the game. While unlike Animal Crossing, Tomodachi Life Living the Dream doesn't have a pandemic to help with sales, the game still has a ton going for it, and I think that Nintendo knows that too. They ended a direct with this game, so they know just how popular it is, and how important it is for the fans. They haven't shown us much, but the second trailer says, stay tuned for more info in the near future. So it would make sense for them to be saving all the big reveals until closer to release, because honestly, anything's enough to build hype for its fans of the series. and it would be better to wait until then to share the more juicy details, so that newcomers to the series will have something to try out right away, once they see that the game has something they might find interesting, whether that be a demo being shadow dropped, or a very nearby release date. And with all that information we still need, I can see a full dedicated direct happening for Tomodachi Life, or at the very least a spot in a regular direct with an overview trailer close by. As for sales, I could see 3 different scenarios happening for this game. Scenario 1, the game ends up being good, but nothing groundbreaking. The fans are split on which game's better, but can overall agree that they're both good experiences. In this scenario, I can see the game selling anywhere between 7 to 12 million copies. At least 5 million people will be buying this game regardless, no matter how good it is, just because they're hyped for the game. If this sounds a bit high, let me remind you that the series is actually really big in Japan already, with the series actually starting out there with the Japan-exclusive Tomodachi Collection. And as we can see from the most liked tweet on the Nintendo Japan account, there's definitely still demand. Then, just because of the sheer size of the Switch's audience, I can see it selling around 2 to 7 million more in its lifetime, depending on word of mouth. This is the most likely scenario, just because the fanbase for the game is there, but very big hits don't happen every day, and when they do, they're pretty hard to predict. Scenario 2, the one I hope doesn't come true. In this one, the game just isn't very good, and people don't care for it. Most people unanimously agree that the original Tomodachi Life is superior, and that Nintendo really dropped the ball. In this scenario, I could see it selling around 5 or 6 million copies, maybe 7 if we're lucky. Again, I think we'll most likely get these 5 million sales from fans who will buy it regardless, but in this scenario, I don't think word of mouth will carry it far. I could see it just stopping after that, or slowly selling another million before sales stop entirely. 7 million lifetime is definitely possible, just because of the sheer size of the Switch's player base, but only after a long time. This scenario is least likely because it'd be hard to ruin Tomodachi Life, and from what we've seen, it looks promising. Scenario 3, the one that I hope for the most. The game fixes all the flaws of Tomodachi Life and becomes the definitive way to play the game. Word of mouth post-launch could really carry this game far, especially if it lives up to the hype of the fans. If it does, I can see it having a similar explosion in popularity to the 3DS game. Again, stuff like that's hard to predict, but I can see the scenario ranging from 12 to 20 plus million copies, depending on how much the game blows up. And I mean, with all the things Tomodachi Life Living the Dream has going for it, anything is possible. However, if the game doesn't get as much attention, then I could see this game getting sales numbers closer to what I predicted for Scenario 1, despite having better reception from fans. That's just how the world works sometimes. Scenario 3 is a little more likely than Scenario 2, just because from first looks of the game, it looks very promising. However, this one relies a lot on word of mouth, and the game being amazing, neither of which are guaranteed. So, what does this all mean for Nintendo and Tomodachi Life? Well, it means this game actually has a shot at making it big, regardless of whether people see it or not. If it reaches the higher side of these scenarios, it could outsell Splatoon or Luigi's Mansion. Even at the lower end, these sales are pretty decent. If the game sells well and does well online, it could become a new mainstream series, and revive not just Tomodachi Life for good, but potentially the Mii's as well. It'll never be Animal Crossing, but that's okay, it was never supposed to be. Now at the very least, it can have a shot at being seen as more than just a niche, quirky little game. And now we wait. I've shown you why I think we've been severely underestimating Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, but only time will tell whether I'm right or not. With only a few months left until release, I'm sure we're going to find out soon enough. Here's to Family Game of the Year 2026. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below. This is my first real video, and I'd appreciate the support. I'm not sure how often I'll post since I'm busy with school, but we'll see how things go. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.